But we got to get into this Rutgers Indiana game, man, because Rutgers, for the people that didn't see it, it was a wild finish. We had a flagrant 2, we had a punch thrown, we had a game tying 3 with 11 seconds left, and we had a game winning 3 from Ron Harper Jr. to give Rutgers the win on the road. They've now won at Indiana. They've won at Wisconsin. They've won a lot of games in their own building. They have 6 quadrant 1 wins. They have 2 quad 3 losses, a quad 4 loss. Prome, I know you're not a quadrants guy, right? But you're an eye test guy. Yeah. And I can tell that you think that the team passed the eye test.
I mean, come on. If Rutgers, like, what else do they need to do? I mean, I wrote it down because I wanted to make sure I got it. Indiana, Illinois, Ohio State, Michigan State, Wisconsin, Iowa, Michigan, Purdue, and you can't go to the NCAA tournament? Come on, man. That's ridiculous. I mean, what kind of metric? How can you win all those games and the metrics don't get you in the NCAA tournament?
Oh, you want to know why? Because you do things like lose at home to Lafayette. Lafayette is 9-20 in the Patriot League. That's why they lost at UMass. Nobody loses to UMass. Who loses to UMass? It's that. I mean, that's the issue right
Back
there.
in the 80s, a lot of teams lost to UMass.
Yeah, that John Calipari walking through that door. Marcus Camby
or mid-90s. I mean,
Camby's gone. Like Camby ain't coming back.
Lou Rowe, Camby.
Yeah, they ain't coming back.
Lou Rowe was a bad boy now.
Yeah, Rutgers can beat anybody, I think, in the country, but they can lose to anybody in the country. And they're gonna have to do some damage in the Big Ten tournament to get in. I think they got to win a couple of games, make it to the semis, make it to the final. Something they got to do something extra to get in. They got some really good wins, but again, they got some tough losses in there too.
Yeah, I mean the reason why they're on the bubble, I've made this point before, is when it comes to getting into the tournament. We talk about this on the Fielding the 68 show, which is on Monday nights and Friday nights, 6 p.m. Eastern time, streaming right here on this YouTube channel. Their issue is that their metrics are just ugly. They're 71st in KenPom, they're 81st in the net. And those are the kind of things that are going to drag you down. Now, I will say this. The metrics are more geared towards where you get seated as opposed to whether or not you get in. I think the wins are what gets you in. And I'll also say this. The worst stuff that Rutgers did this year all happened way back in November, even before Thanksgiving. No question. And I think that stuff needs to count. But I also think that you can take into account the fact that, like, Geo Baker didn't play against UMass. He was not himself in the loss at home against Lafayette. He did not play in the loss to Clemson. Like, he was out for a while and he was banged up for a while. So I think that needs to get taken into account. I do think Rutgers needs to win, but they got to be dancing, right? RC, they got to be dancing.
After the win today is big, but I still think they got to win a couple of games in the Big East tournament. Right now you're leaving a lot to chance, because right now I think if another team gets hot and make a run, I think they can get pushed out. I just think they're right there fighting to kind of get in. They need to stay in. I think they need to win a couple of games.
Yeah, I mean, they got to beat Penn State at home, and you probably need to lose to a tournament team in the Big Ten tournament.
When's the last time a 12-8 team in the Big Ten wouldn't go to the NCAA tournament if they beat Penn State? And I know they just started playing 20 games.
Nebraska in 2000.
Tim Miles last year. Was that Tim's last year?
Second to last year in 2000. I think it was 2019.
Yeah.
Right. They had a really good year, and they didn't. Maybe it was 2018.
But sometimes you can, because of the imbalanced schedule, those 12 wins may have been against 6 or 8 teams you're supposed to beat. These teams, Purdue, Ohio State, Michigan State, Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois, they're top 20 teams.
Yeah. How about Indiana, Prome? They are now 6-10 against the top 2 quadrants. They have 1 quadrant 3 loss, 3 quadrant 1 wins, and they have beaten Purdue at home. They've beaten Ohio State at home, and they beat Notre Dame, who we're going to talk about in a second, on a neutral. Are they in for you?
I think it's close now. I think if they'd have won today, I'd have thrown them in there for sure. Because now they got a chance to at least be no worse than 500 in the league. I would still like to see them go win a game in the Big Ten tournament, but tonight I think they still got work to do because it's tonight. Purdue, obviously, if they could go and beat their rival Purdue Saturday would be huge, but people are probably going to pick Purdue in that one. But if they could go on to the conference tournament, I think they got to go get a good one there for sure.
Randolph?
I don't have them in. I don't think they can get in. I don't, and I don't believe they should with a below 500. If they're below 500 in conference play, they can't. They can't. You got enough teams in the the Big Ten to be ahead of them with Wisconsin, Illinois, Purdue. You got Iowa. I mean, Ohio State's been struggling, but still, I mean, even Michigan State, like they can't get in being below 500 in the Big Ten.
Yeah, they were our first team out, Indiana, according to Fielding the 68, and Rutgers was the third team out. So this was very much a something of a de facto. I don't know if you could call it a playing game because there's still stuff left to be played this season. But both of these teams badly needed this win. Rutgers was able to get it on the road. It's been a kind of a consistent thing with Indiana this year, losing games where they had a lead, blowing leads. This has not been the greatest start to a tenure for Mike Woodson. That's a different conversation for a different day.